Senate, Governor, Attorney General, Congress. The 2026 board is set, and the stakes have never been higher. Will the Texas First record hold? Or is it time for a new guard in Austin and D.C.? We go one-on-one with the candidates and fact-check the campaign trail in real time. Polls, players, and pure Texas politics. This is Battleground Texas.
Welcome to Battleground Texas. I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas. Let's get right into today's headlines. Now, the biggest news over the weekend, first out of Tarrant County, and a result that has sent shockwaves through both parties. Democrat and Union leader Taylor Ramett won the special election for Texas Senate District 9 on Saturday. Ramett defeated Republican Lee Wambsgans by double digits in a district that Donald Trump won by 17 points back in 2024. Now, while the seat must be defended again in November, the win provides Democrats with significant momentum and serves as a wake-up call for the GOP ahead of the March primaries. Now, in the governor's race, campaign finance reports filed this weekend reveal Governor Greg Abbott has amassed a staggering war chest of over $105 million for his re-election bid. His primary Democrat challenger, State Representative Gina Hinojosa, raised a respectable $1 million. And in the race to unseat Senator John Cornyn, campaign finance disclosures show that State Representative James Tallarico entering the primary home stretch with a substantial financial advantage over Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. For more, I'd like to bring in my colleague, Greg Grugan in Houston. Greg, what is making headlines for you?
Stephen, by a magnitude of 20, what's on my mind is Taylor Ramett's absolute pounding of a Trump-endorsed candidate in a traditionally red state Senate district, which the president, as you mentioned, won by 17 points just 15 months ago. Game changer could be an understatement because this race may well have revealed not just chinks in the GOP's armor, but holes you can drive a Subaru through. Look, there is absolutely no way the Republican powers that be would have allowed incumbent, now interim comptroller Kelly Hancock, to bail out if they had any inkling they would get taken to the absolute woodshed in this special election by, of all people, a union dude in a right-to-work state. I'm certain we're going to talk a bunch more about this later in the show, but what should be scaring the bejesus out of Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick is the sheer number of independents and even line-crossing Republicans who felt compelled to send a protest message during frigid North Texas weather. While I don't want to read too much into it, I think it's safe to say Democrats can use this rare victory for a potential gusher of outside fundraising. And folks on the statewide ballot who were just kind of going through the motions and preparing to take one for Team Blue are very suddenly and perhaps justifiably energized. Let the games begin, Stephen.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think we're going to hear Democrats talk about Senate District 9 a lot until November. Now, we actually have some new polling numbers, so I want you to take a look at those. The latest survey from Texas Public Opinion Research released Thursday shows that Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett holds a razor-thin 1-point lead over Round Rock State Representative James Tallarico, but there is a sea of undecided voters. 21% still say that they have not picked a side. Crockett dominates with black and middle-aged voters, while Tallarico has been leading with white and Latino voters. The headline for the GOP is a dead heat between Attorney General Ken Paxton and incumbent Senator John Cornyn. Cornyn leads Paxton by 9 points among women, while Paxton leads Cornyn 8 points among men. Now, I recently talked one-on-one with the senator about some of the biggest topics going on right now, ICE and his Republican challengers. Let's talk about ICE. That has been consuming the headlines for the last couple of weeks. Do you think officials on the ground kind of spoke too soon about this latest deadly shooting?
I do. I think, one of the biggest dangers when something like this happens is sort of the fog that occurs around these, and different people have different perspectives. And of course, now we've seen a frame-by-frame analysis from some of the media trying to figure out what happened. But to the best of my information and knowledge, what happened is this Mr. Preddy got involved interfering in a law enforcement operation. And when people saw that he had a gun, then they were worried, they concerned about their own safety. And as you know, tragedy ensued.
2 American citizens were shot and killed, 2 different situations. Do you think ICE is overstepping its bounds in American cities?
No, I think ICE is doing the job we've asked them to do, enforcing federal law. If there could be some modification of tactics and procedures. As I said, in Texas, we haven't seen this phenomenon because we cooperate with state law enforcement, with federal authorities.
You have been vocal saying that another Senate candidate, Representative Wesley Hunt, has not been in D.C. If you aren't willing to debate him because you think he's not able to win, why are you talking about him?
Well, because he is forcing a runoff between me and the Attorney General on May the 26th. And frankly, I think his attendance record is disgraceful. For somebody who claims to be a MAGA warrior and supportive of President Trump, he's not showing up to vote on legislation that's part of President Trump's agenda.
Do you think the Attorney General will do a debate?
Well, that's up to him. I've heard various people who know him well say that he is essentially, he's unwilling to debate because he doesn't want to be asked questions about his corruption and his baggage that he brings to the election. And he's just sort of relying on what he's always done, which is sort of hunker down until all the chaos passes, all the dispute or the news passes, and then win election. But I'm not going to allow him to do that. We are going to hold him accountable for his corruption, the fact he's basically betrayed the Texas people of Texas.
Now, we're going to have much more after this break on the Senate race. But first, we want to hear from you on that Tarrant County election. What do you think the biggest factor in the Democrat win was? Is it the blue wave rising with suburban voters rejecting the current administration's national agenda, or the kitchen table effect with Remette focus on union jobs and schools swaying voters? Vote now.
just corrupt. He's weird. Paxton's been caught in multiple affairs, resulting in his wife divorcing him. As AG, Paxton cashed in on your dime, pocketing $2 million from a taxpayer-funded contract.
Welcome back to Battleground Texas. We are joined by our friend Mark Jones at Rice University. Greg, this Senate race is starting to get a little messy.
Yeah, Stephen, I've said it before and I'll say it again. You could have rock solid proof Ken Paxton was complicit in the crucifixion, and you still wouldn't break the inexplicable trance he has on a good chunk of the Texas hard right. All of the allegations in this ad are frankly justified, but they've all been out there before and have only whittled off a small chunk of his support, with the notable exception of a segment of Republican women who my friend Gary Pollan says would rather walk across glass than vote for Paxton. All of that said, it will be interesting to see if Texas GOP hubris has been impacted by this weekend's shellacking in Tarrant County. After all, nearly all the Democratic scenarios for snatching the Texas Senate seat involve a matchup with the morally challenged Paxton. National Democratic voters and donors eager to pounce on any hint of Republican blood in the water may be less willing to dispatch a big chick if incumbent John Cornyn sits atop the Texas ticket to take on Crockett or Tallarico. That said, Republican primary voters may well say, damn the torpedoes, and send Big John to the sidelines. Stephen?
Hey, Mark, you know, this race, I mean, we got early voting, in about 2 weeks, February 17th is when early voting starts. On the Republican side, Cornyn has said that Wesley Hunt is playing spoiler. Of course, Hunt saying he's a legitimate contender. Is Paxton kind of just waiting in the wings for the runoff?
Well, yes, Paxton, I think, feels pretty assured that he will be in the May runoff, and also assured that we will have a May runoff. In many respects, I think he would prefer to go up against John Cornyn rather than Wesley Hunt, simply because he has a game plan to go against Cornyn that's not as strong potentially against Hunt. So I think he'll sit by the sidelines, let those two duke it out and diminish each other, with the hope of then whoever crosses over the finish line comes across as a weaker candidate.
Greg, you know, Cornyn says that Hunt is, you know, he's been calling him out for missing votes. Hunt saying, you know, these aren't serious votes, and he's campaigning for the office. And I asked him in that interview, if you don't care about Hunt, why are you spending money talking about him? Do you think Cornyn's been between a rock and a hard place?
Yeah, I mean, he's having to fight one opponent first, knock him out of the race, and then try to regroup and fight Paxton in the runoff. And that's a tough thing to do when you're the incumbent and you've already spent $60 or $70 million. But obviously he thinks that Hunt is a big enough threat that he has to spend time and money and get him out of the race. And you know, all the while, Paxton gets to sit back. He doesn't do interviews except when they're super friendly, and he's not going to debate. So that's why I mentioned this issue in Tarrant County. Man, folks may say we need to go with the safe choice, John Cornyn. Stephen?
All right. Yeah, for sure. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about that Tarrant County race. I actually spoke to the senator-elect this morning. We'll see you on the other side of this break. As we mentioned earlier, there was a shocking, at least shocking to many, upset win in a special election runoff here in North Texas, specifically in Tarrant County, which is a red county that President Trump won that district by double digits. I spoke to the runoff winner, Taylor Remett, and Donald Trump made an interesting comment about the race. Take a listen.
I think this isn't about partisan politics. This is about folks who are struggling, finding the best candidates, because it's really people over party at this point. We need to focus on the issues that are causing people to choose between, rent and medicine. We really need to focus on the lowering of costs in general, because they keep rising and our wages stay the same.
Texas, a Democrat won your special election in an area that you had won by 17 points. What is your reaction to that?
I don't know. I didn't hear about it. Somebody ran where?
In Texas, a special election for legislative
the 9th state Senate seat.
I'm not involved in that. That's a local Texas race. You mean I won by 17 and this person lost? Things like that happen.
All right, Greg and Mark is back. Greg, Tarrant County, we were talking about Tarrant County when Beto O'Rourke was running for Senate, when he first really came onto the show, and Tarrant County was seen as a bellwether county. If Tarrant County goes blue, that could be good news for Democrats in other suburban areas. Do you think that this is just a one-off or something to come?
Stephen, while Republicans are privately apoplectic about this North Texas thrashing, they ultimately could look back at it as sort of a condor in the coal mine, a harbinger of more to come if they don't ditch the kind of complacence 3 decades of uninterrupted GOP dominance in the Lone Star State has clearly led to. It all depends on how they react to the bloody nose they were delivered in Tarrant County. As for Democrats, how do you define going from little hope to plenty? Mark Jones, look, he'll tell you about this. If they react, they have time to turn the course, or, we could be looking at more Democratic wins.
Well, that's certainly possible, but we always have to keep in mind this is a special election, which by definition are special. They're low turnout. I think one thing that we did see in this election, which should set off warning bells for Republicans, is first, Democrats are mobilized and enthused. They want to turn out to cast a vote against President Trump and against Republican administration policies. And then also, moderate Republicans may have a line that they're unwilling to cross, and that line seemed to be Lee Wamgan's up in Tarrant County. And if only 5 or 10% of Republican primary voters switch over, that could cause a lot of districts to go the other way. Republicans do, though, have plenty of time to regroup. I think one of the errors they made was not learning from November. And in spite of Remett coming within 3 points of an absolute majority, they simply didn't have a good ground game to make sure that their voters got out to vote. So, that falls a lot on Tarrant County Republican Party leadership, as well as some of the Tarrant County and statewide Republican elected officials. But moving forward to November, this is a district that, all other things being equal, is going to go red once you have turnout that is more than twice that which we saw in the special election. But if Republicans aren't doing well with moderate Republicans, and if independents are leaning Democratic and Democrats are more enthused, that could create some real trouble for Republicans up and down the ballot in tighter races, and really, I think, help Senator Cornyn with his argument to President Trump and others that if Republicans put up Ken Paxton as their nominee, he could potentially cost them that U.S. Senate seat and result in the first Democratic victory in Texas in a statewide race since 1994.
Yeah, Stephen, I'm guessing the Tarrant County win can serve as kind of kindling for the kind of serious fundraising Democrats across the state are coveting. You hearing anything about that being a springboard?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I mentioned at the top of this, Democrats are we're going to get tired of hearing about Senate District 9. Let's just put it like that. Because Democrats are going to use this to show that they have energy, that their voters are motivated to come to the polls. Remett was telling me that, they lost 2 days of early voting due to the ice and snow that we had up here. And so he believes that this proves that Democrats are just energized to move forward, Greg.
All right. Lots more to come on Battleground Texas, so stay with us. Welcome back. Political clashes all over the state of Texas. Couple things I've been watching closely. After a year without any representation, the folks of Texas 18 have chosen former Harris County Attorney Christian Menifee to finish the last 11 months of Sylvester Turner's unexpired term. Menifee, who branded himself as a battler, says he's looking to impeach Kristi Noem and put ICE out of business. Ironically, he's already facing a head-to-head March 3rd primary battle in the reconfigured 18 against none other than 11-term Congressman Al Green. Finally, Menifee's election further narrows the GOP's razor-thin majority. Definitely a problem when folks like Wesley Hunt and Chip Roy are spending every available moment in Texas campaigning for statewide office. Mark, what you got?
Well, yeah, Menifee, it's definitely out of the frying pan into the fire. He's got a tough race against Al Green, and perhaps that could go to a May runoff. I think we've seen an interesting emergence today of a smudge on James Tallarico's sort of shiny, sort of polished background with strong critique by former Senate candidate and now congressional candidate Colin Allred, essentially for an allegedly disparaging comment that Tallarico made about him as a mediocre black man.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, Mark, I'm gonna bounce off of that. I mean, if you watch that Colin Allred video, I think that's the most, I don't want to misspeak, but personality, personal, whatever word you want to use to describe it, I haven't seen Colin Allred like that. And so that puts a spotlight on him for this congressional race that he's running against Julie Johnson for. And it puts a spotlight on Tallarico to see, okay, are these allegations true? Also today, Allred got the endorsement from the Dallas Morning News. And so I'm sure we'll talk more about Allred-Tallarico beef tomorrow. All right, that's all the time for today. But you can see this episode or any of our past ones coming up during this primary on our YouTube channels.
And keep the conversation going on social media. On the next edition of Battleground Texas, Democrat for Senate James Tallarico, currently locked in a dead heat with primary challenger Jasmine Crockett. Strap in, everybody. It's going to be a wild one. See you next time.